Jews, Mexicans, and Irish, Italians, and Chinese. But my mouth to God's ears, I really hate those black rats. And anyone else, really, that doesn't have pure white Aryan blood running through their veins.
I'm happy to be talking to a true white American.
God bless white America. The KKK is planning an attack.
How do you propose to make this investigation?
We'll establish contact over the phone. We'll need a white officer to play me when they meet face to face.
You for the white race, Ron?
Oh, hell yeah.
So there becomes a combined Ron Stallworth.
Can you do that?
With the right white man, we can do anything.
A Blackkklansman, I feel like that should be the title. And this is kind of based off true events. If you could see my hands right now, that's kind of doing quotation marks right now, based off true events. And this kind of follows the story of a person who was, I think, in the FBI or the cops. His name was Ron Stallworth, and he was kind of an undercover cop, and he was black, and he was infiltrating the KKK at the time, and kind of like talking to people like David Duke and people like that, and kind of having this like infiltrating the undercover, what's going on with the Klan and things like that. This is directed by Spike Lee. So with that in mind, I feel like if people know Spike Lee and his work and generally what he leans towards, obviously, like, with that knowledge, he has a semi-bias to what he shows. I think there's a lot of articles that have come out saying that this film is not exactly accurate to the actual truth of what happened. And a lot of kind of the stuff, especially around the end of the, especially a lot of the things that happen kind of in the last 45 minutes of the film are kind of fabricated. And generally the main reason why they did that is I'm assuming they wanted kind of this big kind of Hollywood ending in a sense where like there's things got to do with bombs going off. There's, kind of like this terrorism thing going on, kind of like these riots and things like that. And I feel like obviously they've built up a heightened sense for the last, like, once again 45 minutes, kind of like the last second half of the film, just to kind of make it a little bit more I guess movie centric.
Well, I was gonna say because the actual movie is based on a book, correct? By Ron Stallworth himself. Now it's called Blackkklansman, and it's supposed to be a memoir. Now I haven't read the book, and I haven't watched the movie either, but I'm aware that, like, when I first heard of this film, I'm like, oh, cool. Like, it's been a while since I've watched a black exploitation film. I think the last one,
Black Dynamite.
It was Black Dynamite, which in and of itself is kind of like a subversion of black or kind of like a parody. Like it's a parody of Blaxploitation. It's great, by the way. I highly recommend Black Dynamite. I think it's a great film. It's really funny. And I thought this was kind of what it was. It's supposed to be. It's kind of a revisiting, or maybe like, it's obviously not. It's going to be like an embellished version of the events that are described in the book. But from my understanding, there's a lot of things that doesn't happen. But in terms of the movie itself, what did you think of the movie?
Well, that's the thing. I feel like I'm a little bit of two worlds in a sense where I'm like, there's certain parts of the film where I didn't feel like it worked too well, or kind of I didn't really believe it, because once again, it feels like I mentioned before with Maniac, where it's kind of this heightened sense of reality. It kind of does the same thing in this film, but like it is supposed to be kind of ground, and I think that is purely based because of Spike Lee. He doesn't really do grounded too well. He does these very like in your face type of films most of the time. Like once again, if you've ever seen like one of his main Do the Right Thing, that's like got like a lot of like close-ups of people's faces and like very weird camera angles. So I feel like a lot of this Blackkklansman kind of like structurally, I don't really like the way it's kind of filmed and how it kind of works that way.
Okay. So like purely from a like, cause I definitely know you love your films and angles and stuff like that. I guess from a an aesthetic view of how the movie was filmed, you don't like it.
Oh, I don't like that.
Okay.
Story wise, knowing that it's a kind of a semi fabrication of the real life events, I can kind of see what they're kind of doing. I've heard that Bohemian Rhapsody kind of does the same kind of thing in a sense.
Oh, is that the case? Well, the thing is, there's nothing wrong with doing films and stuff that kind of do that. Like, for example, like if you kind of go and watch what is it, Inglorious Bastards? Like the movie is presented as being obviously I think fictional, or but like at the same time it's presenting it being like a little bit of like a snippet of a event that could have happened during World War Two. But then later on in the later on in the film, and spoilers if you haven't watched Inglourious Bastards, they eventually kill Hitler.
Hmm.
So obviously it's not based in like the real world, and it is like at all, like, because obviously Hitler does not get assassinated despite having I think like over 50 assassination attempts.
Did you actually hear the theory behind the Tarantino verse, where they basically say that Inglourious Bastards is kind of in the same universe, and basically them killing Hitler, and especially in such a violent manner, all the films that are in the Tarantino universe, the main reason why everything's kind of ultra violent in that sense is because they're living in the timeline of where Hitler did get killed, and he got killed in this violent way, and that's why like hyper violence is like realized in like Kill Bill and Pulp Fiction and everything
Ah.
like that.
Yeah, I can dig that. Like I like that as a theory. Like like in the sense that like, oh, because Hitler was killed in a hyper violent way, people use violence and I guess a aggressive form of violence to solve problems.
Yeah, it's not
And
even that,
but
but it's like Django Unchained all the way to the Hateful Eight. Like it's like it all seems to kind of go back to like this random like thing.
yeah, well, yeah, it's interesting.
Mm,
I can't co-sign the theory, but I like it.
yeah.
But I guess like again, like that's obviously its own thing, and to be fair, like Tarantino kind of does his films however the hell he wants, right? Like if he wants to kill Hitler, he'll do it. Like he's done it. He literally did it. But like I guess like when you prevent like from my understanding, I thought Black Klansman was supposed to be like as you mentioned, it's based off a true story, but I guess like the story obviously like it doesn't match what's in the book. That's from what I also understand. Like it's not necessarily that the whole thing is fabricated, but rather that like things that are described in the book, which is a memoir and based on events that actually did happen, it kind of exaggerates or even purely fabricates events that actually happen.
Yeah, like
And I guess that kind of put me off watching it because I'm like, oh well, half the fun of me wanting to watch this film was it was based on a true thing, and like as you mentioned, there's like explosions and like stuff like that, but like it doesn't happen. It's kind of more one beat,
yeah, like
and generic.
it's definitely not a like real true kind of I guess telling of the thing. It's more of like a Hollywood type version, and I think like
I see.
yeah, and like that's the thing. The acting once again it is pretty good at like for two of the characters, Adam Driver, who is everyone's favorite Kylo. He does a really good version of also an undercover cop who's I guess a Jewish, and he has to pretend not to be Jewish. And once again the main guy who plays Ron Starworth as well, he does a pretty good job as well. Everyone else in the film, especially the KKK people, are very they film once again, as I was mentioning before, with this hyper realized type of thing. They're kind of played in this very cartoony type way, where it's like it's very like this isn't reality, and it's kind of like shot in that particular way, and it's kind of the way they deliver their lines. They feel like they're like the cackling villain almost. Like it feels very fake. And I'm assuming that's what it was in a sense. It doesn't have that sense of reality.
Yeah, I think like Topher Grace who plays I think David Duke in the film, which I was kind of surprised about. I totally didn't know he was in it until like much later. Uh, I think he definitely did say that. Yeah, he played David Duke, who was the leader or a member of the KKK or a division of the KKK.
Yeah, like they never really explained in the film, and I did a bit of reading. I think like it was like a division of the KKK or like a group subset of the group or something like that.
The national director, right, of the KKK. Just imagine having that as a title. Right? But yeah, like, and I guess I think he even said in interviews like, yeah, he played David Duke like that, so it kind of makes sense that like that it is the way that it's presented, and maybe I guess the KKK. Obviously, I guess you're gonna probably play them as villains, so that's why they're presented as villains. I think it's kind of funny that you mentioned that, because I think in Red Dead Redemption, again, since we talked about cowboys before, I think one of the random events you can come across is the KKK, like at night. You'll see like the KKK like burning crosses and stuff, but like if you like listen in on their conversations, like anything they're trying to do, they end up kind of like bumbling and screwing it up. Like they'll like light a cross on fire or something like that, but then the burning cross then falls on several of the members, killing them. So like because a lot of people will interrupt what's happening, the event that's happening, but if you just let it go as it is, like they end up like
screwing up anyways.
Yeah, they end up screwing up anyway. So I kind of find it funny that like and again, it's like it kind of makes sense. Nobody likes the KKK, so it makes sense that the media reflects people's distaste for them, I guess.
Yeah, but yeah, like the detective part is like good of the film, but everything else is kind of like this very average kind of type of film. I guess the main thing that I really didn't like about the film is that it's going to feel very dated. Like this film was clearly made with a type of agenda, especially for, I guess, this type of heightened times. Like it starts with kind of like a stinger of like Alec Baldwin talking about like politics and like a kind of a semi background of like the KKK type of thing, where he's talking about like, oh, these people and that people, and we've been enslaved this whole time type of thing. And then, and obviously, it kind of ends like, as well. It also has kind of like a stinger at the end where it kind of focuses on like real life news events that happened, like last year with like, I think like Charlottesville and things like that. It kind of ends on that type of note. And it's a very weird note to go to, like this kind of semi real life story that's set in like this, kind of like the 80s, 70s, 80s, and kind of sting it up with this new, event that happened only like last year in 2017. So it's very weird how that splits off. It feels like it feels very like of its time, and I feel like in 10 years time, even 5 years time, everyone's like, why was that included in the film? It's a very like signaling reason why. I don't know why that's part of the narrative.
Well, is it so I know Alec Baldwin kind of on the late night show. Is it the late night show, the Saturday Night Live?
Saturday Night Live,
yeah. Yeah, he's dressed up as Trump before. So is it basically like they're making references to, I guess, like the current state of like America? Like that's the kind of like it's kind of juxtaposing all that, like kind of making a reference like, oh hey, look how bad it is like here, and look at what's happening in America. Like, ooh, is the similarities? Is that what it's basically trying to do?
I don't know, because like I think from what I remember with Alec Baldwin's whole thing, he was just there to be like, I'm gonna teach you about like slavery and like what's happening of kind of like the, I guess, black civil rights. It's kind of like this education class at the start of the film. Then it turns into the actual narrative of the film, and then once again it kind of bookmarks itself and closes with like events that happened in 2017 that have nothing got to do with David Duke or Ron Starworth or anything like that. So it feels very weird to kind of put that in.
Okay, I see. Well, I guess maybe like I know in Charlottesville they had like a bunch of what was it, like people like
with torches and I suppose like I think that's what they try to, and that's the thing. It's like I don't think the people like, because like personally I don't know, but like as far as I know, that none of those people at Charlottesville were KKK members or anything like that. But I feel like this film is trying to have that similarity. Like these people are the new generation KKK or something like that. So that it just felt that part felt a little bit weird. Where I'm like, as a film about these particular characters, all of a sudden just split off into this different thing. I feel like that was it. Once again, it's gonna date really poorly, I suppose.
Mhm.
You know.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a good ways to do, I guess, political commentary on current events, like what I was mentioning with Supergirl. I think they're really nailing, at least trying to show, quote unquote, show both sides, when it comes to political arguments such as immigration and I guess gun rights. They've done that before, but like this season like is kind of hinting at and making reference to events in the United States, but I think they do a very good job at framing it within. Obviously, they're not going to do a one-for-one because obviously these are all fictional things, such as having aliens and things like that. Sorry, extraterrestrial aliens. I'll be specific in what I'm saying there. But yeah, like again, yeah, I guess originally I had an interest for this film, but like, yeah, I guess like it doesn't really interest me too much. I guess like there are better black exploitation films that kind of do a better job. I guess that's maybe something you might agree with.
Yeah, I think there's more quality stuff out there that's kind of like in that type of vein, or I guess the type of stories that need to be told type of thing. So like overall, like I feel like the I guess detective parts are kind of good in a sense where like it's kind of going undercover and it's kind of thing, but it's like it's very heightened and it's not realistic, and it's kind of taken an interpretation and things like that. I feel like the IMDb score of it of like a 7.6 is more closer to my type of score than like the Rotten Tomato score, which is like at like 95%.
I see, right. Well, yeah, I feel like IMDb does a better job at like reviewing sometimes. Like it feels like it does, like I don't know how the reviewing system works in IMDb, but like I always kind of like whether it works on a function which is like, oh, I actually give this film 7 out of 6, whereas I'm pretty sure Rotten Tomatoes works on a do I like it, and then it does like a point system based on that. Right? Like because like whether you like it, like I might like a film, but like the film is a 6, right? But those things aren't really viewed in any kind of delineation on a site like Rotten Tomatoes. You might get a bunch of people who give the film 6, but it gets 100% Rotten Tomato meter, and people might think, oh hey, like this is like a 10 out of 10 film. Wow. Like I'm not too sure if that's delineated or shown correctly, but yeah, I mean I guess there's always an opportunity for people to I want more black exploitation films, just putting it out there. I really like movies like Shaft and things like that. It
basically plays to their audience, and they kind of like they kind of treat them in a particular way, and like, and once again, I think there is that stuff out there. I think I've seen, I don't know, it mostly comes out in the US obviously, but there's a lot of films where it's like it's a black only cast. I feel like what is it? There's the Medea films. I don't know what they are, but like obviously Medea. It's played by that that guy. He's a comedian or whatever, and there's like 4 or 5 films where he plays like an old black lady, and I feel like those are specifically targeted for that type of audience, and it's kind of like it's their type of films.
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like black exploitation and films that have an African American demographic are like kind of different, right? Like you have like like older films like The Nutty Professor and like things like that. Like all those kind of films are kind of different. Like I don't know if Medea is like one of those films or not. Like I just kind of what? All I'm really trying to say is I miss Eddie Murphy. That's the main.
Yeah,
thing.
man. Have you seen Eddie Murphy recently? Like. No,
I haven't.
That's it's sad. I feel like he needs to come back. Well, that's the thing. It's like Eddie Murphy. Who's the guy who played Austin Powers? Who's that guy again? Michael.
I know.
Mike Myers. Mike Myers.
Yeah, Mike Myers.
Like I feel like those type of comedians are gone, and now we've got like Seth Rogen,
Amy Schumer.
Yeah, Amy Schumer. Like fuck.
Yeah. Well, look, Dave Chappelle came back.
Yeah, he came back, but he had 2 good specials on Netflix. I really liked them.
I think it's 4. He has 4.
Oh, jeez. And now we're gonna catch up now.
Yeah. Watch it, man. They're both really good. But like obviously with something like that, like they're just like, here's millions of dollars. Please put your thing exclusively on Netflix. It's like, okay, sure.
Yeah, Netflix is now just like it also has very like a lot of comedic stuff for some reason. They just go with it. They're just like, yeah, we'll pay you for it. I think like I watched actually Adam Sandler's like recent special, and kind of general off the cuff marks. It's like it's very Adam Sandler, where he like sings random songs that like are 30 seconds and have like a punchline at the end. Like that's most of his like type of stand up. But it's old school Adam Sandler. So, and he's old as well now. So that's something.
Yeah, I mean, it's a thing. I mean, you know what? As much as like, I feel like Adam Sandler kind of, like the films that he did, I kind of lost interest after Click. For me personally, like all the other kind of movies he's done like since have kind of been like, I don't know, like they kind of either like lost quality or like obviously not to say that like Adam Sandler is like top tier, haha comedy, but I at least enjoyed his kind of older films. Makes me want to go through and watch some ones that I've missed. I'm sure I've probably missed some good Adam Sandler, quote unquote Adam Sandler movies.
Yeah, pretty much anything before Click is probably the heyday of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, that's actually going to be us this week. Remember, you can always listen to us on Stitcher, Libsyn, iTunes, Spotify, as well as on our YouTube channel where we split up topic by topic in marketing movies. So until next time, Henry Cavill hopefully is our Superman. I know he's our Geralt. So until next time, see ya.
Gotcha.